This is the Tech Addicts Podcast.
This week, the announcement of the Exercade EXP, specs on the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4, early leaks on the Pixel 7, Pixel 7 Pro and Pixel 7 something else, the Honor 70 Pro and Pro Plus Excite, and did you have a bicycle that made sound effects? Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts Podcast. I am Gary. What's wrong?
Nothing, carry on.
You weren't expecting me to start the podcast when I said, okay, let's go.
Blow my ears off. Right, carry on.
Oh, right, okay. I apologise. Hopefully I didn't blow the listeners' ears off. That person that you were hearing giggling unprofessionally at the start of this podcast was a Mr. Ted Salmon. I, however, was being most professional, introducing the podcast with responsibility and authority, as per usual, eh?
Not likely. Hello, everyone. No. Greetings again from rainy North Wales. Weather report. It's lovely today. I've even got my cardigan on. It's cool and rainy and overcast and cloudy and what the weather that everyone else would think is horrible, but I just love it. It's great.
All right. Well, I take it you've been out with your bunting and your Rule Britannia soundtrack playing with your Union flag hat on, celebrating the Jubilee.
The people on my site had a street party on the go. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to join in there because I had to go up to help Mum and Dad. Of course, I would have loved to have joined in, but I
believe the word you used to describe this was bastards.
No, don't. Some of them might listen. You never know.
Oh, great. Well, yes, I haven't participated in any of it at all, and I was a bit kind of annoyed yesterday sitting out in the garden because I think Prince Edward was in our local city that I now live in, and there was a helicopter flying around and around and around, and it was really noisy. I was just trying to enjoy my garden. But having to put up with this brrrr around it reminded me of the 80s in Northern Ireland when we had helicopters patrolling all over the place.
Yeah, down with the monarchy. Bring back Madame Guillotine, I say. Off with their heads. Republican, let's bring a republic to the UK.
Well, I was listening on the radio, and there was quite a lot of Republicans who were saying, "Yeah, it's kind of nice. The country looks quite well, and it would be nice if we could all be this cheery and happy the whole year round."
All joking aside, though, I do think that, with people starving in the Sudan, I was watching the news last night, and there's people all over the world starving, and all these people across the UK are just gorging themselves on food they don't need and quaffing beer. No, we'll let them get away with that one, and enjoying themselves. And you do think that someone must spare a thought for those that can't possibly afford to be just gorging themselves and with plenty of money. Anyway, that's the serious bit over.
Are you trying to make me feel guilty? Because I was saying that after this is done, I'm going down to eat some seafood at the Marine Festival.
Only if you catch it yourself, that's all right.
It's already caught. It's currently sitting in bowls, ready for me to gorge myself on.
Well, I hope you have a lovely time. And I also hope that my connection holds out this week, unlike last week, because I've got a new EE SIM card. I phoned them up and said, Vodafone are just rubbish here in where I live. I want to try EE. And they did me this, they gave me unlimited data on the SIM card for 8 days to try out, for a tenner, mind you. They charged me a tenner. And sure enough, this week I've been testing it, and I've got speeds that far outweigh Vodafone. So, as an example, Vodafone, I got 4 Mbps down and 20 up today, and 53 down and 40 up on EE. And on the face of it, it looks like it's an absolute winner. A steal, no competition. EE is much, much better. But, as I was saying to you just now, before we started, I do fear about the whole throttling thing. And maybe over time, if I sign up for a EE deal and ditch Vodafone, maybe over time the same thing will happen. They'll see how much I use it, and they'll just start throttling me. So I don't know. A decision is coming in 8 days from the start of this trial.
And whenever you were talking to EA about the package you could get, did you explain your situation?
Yeah.
Okay, and they said, yeah, that's fine, as opposed to, we will be throttling you after a month if we have a constant download connection from you.
I asked them about that, and they said, no, we don't do that. So,
we'll just take your money, though.
Yeah, exactly. But they would say that, wouldn't they? And actually, when I set up my Vodafone connection 2 or 3 years ago, they said exactly the same thing. We will never throttle you, and that was all part of the deal. Because I asked the question then as well. No caps, no throttling. That was what they said to me. And maybe they're not. Maybe it's just that Vodafone, for some other reason, has got really crap.
Well, given that you live in a holiday resort, and obviously it would be slightly more populated this time of year as opposed to the other time of year with the open quote bastards close quote that you find yourself surrounded by.
No, they're nice people.
Yes. Do you find that affects the download? Would you get a faster speed during the winter than you do during the summer?
There are lots of things at play there, I think, including atmospherics as to what a connection you get anyway from anyone. The weather, rain affects it. I know that's a fact 'cause I've tested that. Starts raining and it drops the signal. I don't know if there's any logic in that, but anyway. The only evidence that I've got of supporting what you're saying is that just recently, and this didn't happen last year, when we came to summer last year, I had exactly the same Vodafone SIM card, same service, and I do not remember it dropping away like it has over the last kind of month or so. But yeah, there are more people, and also, as I was saying to you last week, it's all about weekends.
Yeah.
Monday morning, I sent you a graphic to you and Steve. I sent a graphic to from Monday morning because last Sunday I was whinging, and then I sent a graphic of that, and then as soon as Monday came, it was back up again. However, it didn't last long because on the Wednesday it was back down again. But there does seem to be a difference between weekends and weekdays. So I don't know. I don't follow the logic at all.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird thing that you just can't quite understand because everybody does things differently, but obviously Vodafone have a reason for their madness in some way. Maybe there's just no technicians on hand to clean out the pipes or something like that over the weekend. They're all at home. and putting a Starlink satellite on top of your Starlink dish on top of your van isn't an option now.
It is an option, but it's an expensive option, as Ian Barton reported when he did his. Not only the ongoing cost, I think it was £80 a month, but also the setup costs, and you're talking about £500 plus, and you've got to be on a waiting list, and they kind of vet you before they give it to you. So there's all of that, and also it's nickable. I suppose you could put it on top of the static, so it wouldn't be easily nickable, but I mean certainly if you put it on the ground somewhere it would be.
Well, you could hide it inside something, like you could put a wheelie bin up there and then have a motor on the lid, and you press a button and it opens a bit like Thunderbird 2 or something, and then goes up and boop, 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 and then back down again whenever you're done.
That's a good idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Jerry Anderson will be all over that.
At the moment I'm very happy. So we'll see how long it lasts. I shall keep you updated.
Excellent. We get to see the speed decline gradually week after week.
Yeah.
And Ted moved to 3.
Let me tell you. Yeah, I probably will. I'll probably end up back on Vodafone. Let me tell you about. I found something out about Amazon and their 12 payments thingy. Mm-hmm. They did this deal in December 21 with Barclays, and I reckon that, reading between the lines, I reckon that the deal with Barclays stopped them from doing any other 12 months or 5 months finance deals on the back of their own services in lieu of doing it with Barclays. But it would seem only for England and Wales, maybe Scotland, I don't know, but not for where you are. And maybe the deal didn't make it to Northern Ireland with Barclays or something. I don't know, but that seems to be the case. And that's what I was reading. So there you go.
Okay. To explain the reason that I wasn't seeing the deals for the longest period there, but now all of a sudden I have a huge amount of them and you have none.
Yeah, I think that does explain it. Incidentally, I noticed this week that Amazon Basics are doing a 1 terabyte micro SD card. And maybe this should be in bargain basement. It's 130 odd quid or something for the card. But I did wonder. I mean, it's a well specified card. It's not a cheapo crapo one, and it did make me wonder who was making it for them. And I wonder if it's a SanDisk, a nice one or something. And that might be quite a good deal.
It looks like it. Yeah, I'm just having a quick Google to see if I can see if anything pops up, given the model number, but no.
Yeah, it's a U3 one, and yeah, it just looks like it's probably someone else's. Well, it will be. They're not going to make their own, are they?
No.
But, I reckon it's probably a SanDisk one. Anyway, somebody wants to take the...
They are made by Longsys, who are currently owned by Lexar.
Lexar. Okay.
It says that in the questions and answers section on Amazon. It's not that I did some creative Googling or anything.
Fair enough. Well done. Well, very resourceful of you.
Yes. So, there we go. Are you going to buy one now?
I don't feel as though I probably need one now. If it had been a couple
now that you finally found one in the right price.
Yeah. If it had been a couple of years ago, I probably would have done. But a couple of years ago, they were like 450 quid. That's when I really wanted one. And now I've kind of got used to my Edge Plus, which is my main phone these days, and my Pixel 5. They don't have a card slot anyway. And I'm kind of 256 gigabytes of storage seems to be okay now on my phone. I'm coming round to everyone else's thinking.
Well, just looking at this, so this is £135, and then I'm getting 5 monthly payments on there for £27 a month. There are a couple of other options as well. There's actually a Lexar 1 terabyte one for £131.
Oh, right.
Which is that seems to be the same specs, but it's red as opposed to blue. No, black.
Nice.
And then there's an integral one as well, which is £150. So there's no shortage of them available now.
No.
Now that you don't want them.
Yeah, exactly. When I desperately wanted one, there were stupid prices. But yeah, that's really good, isn't it? No, you see, I want a 2 terabyte one now.
Oh, flip, right, okay. But they're 400 odd quid, aren't they?
I'm chasing the technology.
All right. Well, in the hardware news this week, we do have one new lump of hardware that was announced on Tuesday?
One of the days this week.
Aye, earlier in the week. And a familiar name to all the podcasts that I have put out over the last number of months. Exercade have announced a new device, the EXP, which is a successor to the current Exercade portable device. Now, this is it's a refresh that essentially has the technology that you would find in the Exercade VS shrunk down into a portable form and updated so that it's got more modern bits and pieces on it. We have an improved 800 by 480 4.3 inch IPS display with tempered glass. There is built-in Wi-Fi so that you can actually receive updates and things over the air as opposed to the slightly complicated method of connecting it via micro USB to your PC, which means you have to have a PC actually to be able to upgrade the firmware. I suppose that's a bit of a problem for some. It also has a USB Type-C connection for charging, and it has this new exciting thing they're calling Tate, and I forgot to actually note what TATE stands for, TATE, but it is a mode whereby you can turn the device on its side and have a vertical screen. So the screen turns into like a portrait orientation, and you can use that with the D-pad and the A and B button that are on the left-hand side of the device, and achieve the correct aspect ratio for many an arcade machine cabinet that was released back in the day. So the likes of, say, Space Invaders would have been, as opposed to a landscape setup, it would have been on a portrait screen that was set inside the cabinet. So you have that longer draw distance. Commando was another example, or Akai Warriors, things like that worked a lot better in the longer screen aspect of a portrait setup. So this is something that I believe that this hardware has been set out to achieve, because whenever they released the original Evercade, people were a bit miffed that you couldn't play an arcade game in the original form, and you couldn't turn it on the side because it didn't have the buttons, and they just couldn't get around that. There was no way they could actually get it set up in that direction. So they've designed this with that in mind. It looks quite nice. There's a very special black edition that's been released. It's the limited edition with a bunch of goodies as well, which is £179. Otherwise, you can get the regular edition with one cartridge, which is the IREM cartridge that has a couple of games on it, like R-Type and In the Hunt and Moon Patrol, one of my particular favourites there, for £130. So it does seem to be quite a nice collection of things.
That black one looked a right rip-off to me, 60 quid more. And you get a poxy little keyring and another game, and all right, yeah, but it seemed like it was disproportionately more expensive just to try and get people like you, who was prepared to buy the console version for loads more money, into the mould.
You're quite right, yes, and it went up the day after for pre-order, and I didn't pre-order it.
Well done.
I couldn't bring myself to actually go for it. I don't think $179.99 for the amount that I'm actually using the portable Evercade at the moment. I don't think it warrants it.
Yeah. Well, you've got all that other gear, haven't you? I was trying to work out what TATE means. Well, let's have a round of... It must be turn and something. Turn and tinker excitedly. I quite like the fact that it turns round. However, because of my history with Game Boy, I suppose. However, I do think it's still going to be very slim. When you hold it upright, it's going to be very narrow in the hand to try and get big hands, thumbs onto the controllers in that orientation. Don't you think?
I do, yeah. I am hoping that there's just a little bit of weight in that bottom end. But that would unbalance the device whenever you're playing it horizontally.
Yeah.
So I don't see it being an easy solution, unless they had made it that the controller on the right was disconnectable, a bit like the Nintendo Switch. That would have been a fairly decent idea. You could click it off and then have essentially a little Game Boy type device. But they have said that the original our Evercade is going to be discontinued. They won't be manufacturing it anymore, and this is going to take over.
Ah.
So
I didn't know that. So is the screen bigger than my one? 4.3-inch IPS. Is that bigger than my one?
I think it is, yeah. I think it's slightly larger. Okay. Although the imagery that they have doesn't show it off very well, because it still doesn't use the full aspect ratio of the screen, because most of these games are 4x5 when they're in that horizontal mode. Right. Or landscape mode, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's an all right looking piece of hardware. It's one step too many, I think, and I'm quite happy with what I've got at the moment. I'll maybe forgo this one and wait for the next one.
depends how plasticky it is too, because I do think that the one that I've got is quite plasticky. It feels a bit cheap. If this is like feeling robust and more like a Nintendo Switch Lite in build quality, it might make quite a big difference. But we'll have to see.
Yes, and at the same time, the original one is still a £60 console.
Yeah, exactly. This is twice the price.
Yeah, this is a lot more.
Yeah, that's true.
Aye. So it'll be interesting to see. Well, we'll follow that as it comes along.
Yeah.
Now, from one aspect, from one end of the spectrum to the other, Ted, you've noticed over on 9 to 5 Mac, they put an article up about the rare Apple One that has gone on sale on auction. That is, which actually has a signature from Steve Wozniak. Yeah, with its original components.
I can't see the signature. It's not very apparent where it is on that photograph.
I think it's on that EEPROM chip just above the keyboard, above the 4 and the 5. There's a white chip that has a bit of a squiggle on it. I could say Woz.
Really? No, I can't see it. Anyway,
Okay.
What I've learned about this was this kind of AAPL collection. This collection is selling this, presumably because they've got more than one, but they're selling it and they're looking to raise about $500,000 by doing so, with the vision of using the money to get the museum they've set up with all this Apple stuff in it out to more places. I'm not quite sure what out to more places means. Maybe it means they're going to go on the road with their museum and show it off in different cities or something. I don't know. But I mean, really, who is going to pay? I mean, all right, if you've got so much money that, and you're a big Apple fan anyway, and you've got so much money that money's not important, to have this sitting in your games room or something, I suppose would be great fun, and you could know that it was there and that Woz had signed it, and it was, you know. But yeah, apart from that kind of great fun factor, I mean, you could make that, couldn't you? You could get a block of wood and an old CRT or something, and make one yourself.
I can see that ending up in some sort of display in the lobby of a corporate headquarters for some company.
Yes,
I imagine that's where it's going to end up.
Yeah, no doubt.
Not sitting on Adam's shelf in his basement.
That's true. So it'll probably be in Apple's HQ.
Did you like what it did, Adam's Apple?
Oh yeah, very good, very good. Well done. Yeah, I don't see. Probably Apple have got their own versions of these anyway. I don't know how many. I think I did see. Oh, there was 8. This is machine number 89. So there's at least 89. There's at least 88 other ones.
But only 2 of them are in existence or something like that.
And this might be the only one that's been signed by Woz.
But they describe it as in remarkable working condition.
Yeah.
As opposed to all the other ones which are broken, covered in dust and animal excrement.
It looks like a chopping board, doesn't it? Someone's gone to the kitchen and got their mum's chopping board in 1984 or whatever it was, and said, "Yeah, let's put a computer on top of this." Oh no, hang on a minute. On the right hand side, we'll plonk Dad's tape player.
All right. Well, in other news, Google TV are seeing a move by one of their hardware manufacturers that was really pushing out the Google TV over the last couple of years. Xiaomi have adopted the Amazon Fire TV platform for their next line of F2 TVs. Now, Ted, I have a sneaking suspicion that this isn't going to be a tremendous hit, or... Do you know anyone who is quite happy to go out and actually buy a TV with an inbuilt system? Or would you just say that most people will probably go out and buy a dumb TV, or if it has any smart TVs or features, they'll just ignore it and get themselves a £20 stick to be able to shove in there, a Fire TV stick or a Roku stick or whatever? Do you think that people are actually going to be, I'm not going to say dumb enough, but... careless enough to be able to buy a full TV with some sort of built-in system?
It's a difficult question, isn't it? I remember buying a Samsung TV with one of their smart TVs some years ago, and I was overawed by the options and what it had on board, and it was great that it was all integrated, and I was wowed by it all. But you're quite right, because the trouble is now is that there are so many services out there, and none of them are available on any one platform. So I mean, Amazon are getting huger by the minute. Obviously, incidentally, this is a UK only device. I don't know why it's UK only, but it seems to be exclusive to UK in 43, 50, and 55-inch versions. So yeah, Amazon are getting bigger by the minute, and you would like to think that. But actually, when you look at the services that Amazon provides, they are usurped often by other ones, which are better. And you've got to hope that they're all going to be keeping in on board with each other. So you buy this TV, and a year down the line, you suddenly see that, Netflix have fallen out with Xiaomi, who've fallen out with Amazon, who've fallen out with Google, and so your hardware's a piece of shite. And you will then have to go out and buy a box. I totally agree with you. I think the way to go is to buy a dumb TV, which is what I've done. And then you're less likely to have to be saddled with what you've got, and you can more cheaply go and buy a new box or a new service provider hardware piece to plug into it. I agree.
Yeah, but the one thing that I would say that works in their favour here is, well, there's, I suppose, two things really, but price and availability. The smallest of this, the 43-inch, costs £339. The 50-inch costs £379, and the 55-inch costs £424. And clicking onto Amazon to have a look at them, they're all available with the 5 monthly payments as well, because they're kind of you're not seeing them then,
No.
even though they're Fire TVs.
No.
I had hoped that Amazon were going to put this through as, kind of one of their products in a way.
They have not.
Right. Okay. So that kind of defeats that thought that I was having there. But it's a cheap way to get yourself a £339 43-inch 4K TV. That you are still going to have to buy a Roku to be able to get the services that aren't available on.
Yeah.
And they're rated G in their efficiency label, so they're not terribly efficient.
But Amazon do this, don't they? They do this. I mean, every other phone you seem to buy, it says on Amazon, it's like Amazon special with Alexa built in and all this claptrap. People are not allowed to make their own choices. If you want to use Alexa on your phone, then download the Alexa app. Don't bake it in. But it's all to do with money, isn't it? All finance deals.
Yeah. I was just having a quick look at some of the reviews on the on there, and someone's actually taken a picture of them setting it up, and it's smashed, and they've said it was delivered broken. Well, I'm still going to install it.
I'm going to install it anyway.
Yeah, it's a nice looking piece of hardware, and it does have 4 HDMI's on the side.
4?
Wow. I'd say most TVs usually come with 3, which just isn't enough HDMI's, and you end up having to buy a splitter or something like that, or something along those lines. It's got an Ethernet socket as well. I don't see a optical on there, but maybe there is an optical.
There must be.
There must be.
There must be. Absolutely must be.
I don't know. It gives people options, I suppose. And if they are fully embedded in the Fire TV thing, then that's grand. Although, a word of warning is that the Fire TV hardware gets outdated at some point. I have a Fire TV sitting downstairs that I can't use.
Exactly, yeah. And that's another point against it. But then obsolescence is an issue with any kind of hardware, isn't it? Although if you buy a dumb TV, you'd like to think that it will keep going for longer and you can use it longer and replace the stuff around. It's a bit like buying a desktop computer, isn't it? Where you can just change stuff in and swap it out and change it, as opposed to buying a laptop, which eventually you might not be able to.
Well, a dumb TV, you're going to like to think it's going to last between 10 and 15 years before you haven't sitting there. And then you plug in all variety of different Roku sticks over the years because they cost between £20 and £99.
Yeah.
That's grand. Whereas having to buy this and then finding out in 3 years' time, no, they're discontinuing updates for the Amazon Fire TV, Xiaomi TV thing, then you're screwed. And that's £339 lost.
Yeah.
After a few years.
I've just found the picture of the bloke that's got the broken one. It's a shame, isn't it? Poor soul.
Yes. But you got to admire him for still taking it out and turning it on. It's like, I want to see what this is like.
What a buffoon.
Despite the fact the UPS guy that delivered it hates him and threw it at the house from the... No, not UPS, one of the other courier companies. Sorry. All right. Samsung, on the topic of TVs, I suppose, has shut down its LCD manufacturing outlet 6 months ahead of schedule, and they're going to focus more on OLED and QD or quantum dot panels.
Only.
This would excite you then, Ted, because you hate your LCDs, don't you?
I don't hate them, but I do recognise their advantages. But I do think that OLED is so much nicer. And the reason that Samsung have taken this decision is based on finance and competition. I mean, they're saying that the other big boys in China, like BOE, for example, they're quoting, they're all...
Bank of England?
BOE. Oh yeah, Bank of England. They're saying they're knocking out LCDs at such a cheap rate that they just can't keep up with them. They can, because Samsung are stinking rich. They could do if they wanted to, but they decided that they're going to take a shrewd business decision. And that's all right with me. I'd much rather have OLEDs. And we had this discussion about OLED TVs a while ago. I bet those TVs we just looked at are all LCDs, aren't they? They're not going to be
probably.
Yeah, OLED, lovely black OLEDs. I don't know what else to say about this, really.
Okay, well then don't. We'll just move on to the next thing, which continues with the Samsung chain of thought, because they have released, they leaked. I don't believe that it ever gets leaked, but there are specifications arriving for the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4. And I remember when the Z Flip 3 arrived and people were somewhat underwhelmed, and it was all style over specs. However, this time around, they appear to be upping the specs to make it a wee bit more attractive to the actual purchaser. And they'll have a decent phone in their pocket with a funky little hinge mechanism attached to it as well. Inside it, it's going to be a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 chip with 8 gigabytes of RAM and Android 12. There's a 6.7 Full HD 120Hz AMOLED display with a punch hole in the center for the 10 megapixel selfie camera. And then there's an outer AMOLED display as well that is 2.1 inches when compared to the Flip 3's 1.9 inches. And there's a 12 megapixel primary and a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera on the back too. Anything you've picked out of this that's particularly exciting, or is it just more of the same?
It seems like it's more of the same. I think you're right. It looks very similar, and it's probably more of the same with, as you quite rightly say, just improved specs. Or it's a spec bump device, from what I can see there. And it looks really nice. I would really like one. If I had pots of money, I would definitely have one of these to play with. And it would be interesting to see if it did become my daily phone, or whether, the novelty would wear off very quickly and it got assigned to the bin. The drawer. The thing about the last generation was they upped the ante on the outside display, which is pretty good. What I would really like to see is the whole of the outside display being a display, and not only about 40% of it. So if that was the whole of that front panel was a display that they could make more use of before you open it up, I think that would be a winner. I'm not quite sure why they're not doing that, to be honest.
So it could have like a tent mode that you could use on on a train or something, and have it sitting there facing you, and you could see a Twitter feed or something.
You could. You could. You're quite right.
Interesting.
So, but it looks nice. Do you not fancy one? You're a bit of a Samsung fan, aren't you?
No, actually, I have been over the years, but I've needed to breathe a bit and move away from them in the last year. And I'm glad I've got my Pixel Pro, because it's given me that extra breathing space. I was looking at tablets the other day, thinking if I got rid of this S7 Plus, because it's so bloody big, I'll try and find myself a smaller tablet to take with me that isn't so Samsung infused. Because whilst they do pack it full of features, it becomes a wee bit too messy in there for you to actually achieve what you're looking for. Something like notifications just don't work on Samsung. My doorbell, whenever the button is pressed, rings perfectly well and does all the things that it should do on my Pixel Pro, but it doesn't do it on any of the Samsung devices in my house, and I can't for the life of me work out why. I don't know what notification thing is suppressing the notifications, but it is. And I just can't be bothered looking into the Samsung settings anymore to see if I can sort it out. I just think there's an overwhelming amount of things, and they conflict with each other. It's just a bit too complicated.
Just can't be bothered anymore. I'll buy a Pixel.
Yeah. And also, there's one thing as well. I was having a bit of a read around with the Pixel and the privacy settings that are in the Pixel, and with Android 13 coming. I'm back on WhatsApp because I feel that it's a safer platform to be able to manage. I wouldn't like to manage it on a Samsung, to be honest, because you don't exactly know if it's working or not. I just think there's an extra level of complication there. That could see that the camera is actually recording everything that you're doing and sending it back to Mark Zuckerberg.
Right. Okay, then.
That's just me being paranoid, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't disagree with me there, Ted. Just go ahead.
I'm bored with that. Let's move on.
Okay, fair enough. Speaking of privacy focus, because there was a nice segue there, wasn't there?
There was.
It was all nicely worked out because I rehearse these sorts of things. Although I don't know how to pronounce this. The Murena.
Sounds reasonable.
Murena. Murena. The Murena 1 is going to be a privacy-focused budget smartphone that can fulfill your life without Google Dreams. I hadn't actually noticed when reading that, even though I read the title of it earlier on, I didn't notice it was lacking Google on there as well. It's Android without Google.
Yeah, they started off with the software. So they up until now, this company, Murena, have not produced any hardware. And the news here is that they're their first shot at doing some hardware, a bit like Yola did, and pushing out a piece of hardware to support it. Before you go back to you though, don't you think that image of it looks suspiciously like Samsung or a Nokia? That camera cluster on the back, I recognise that from somewhere. It's really familiar. And I wonder if this is just another rebadged, Far East design that they just kind of copied from someone else. Does that look familiar to you? It
does, actually. And it's actually whenever you come to the screen, and you look at the bottom of the screen, there's a bit of a chin.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that's the same as the Oppo.
Perhaps that's it.
Fine series. Because it had that abnormal chin, which I'd missed off Android phones for the longest amount of time. Yeah. But it has some decent specs in it, and that's what I went straight for, because I thought, for maybe if this was about £200, or $379, so it's about £300. The specs look to be quite good, but maybe not at £300.
Yeah, I don't know. The chipset's not particularly impressive. The Helio P60. I mean, it's all right, but it's not up there with the big boys. 6.5-inch 1080p LCD, 128 gigs of storage, 4 gigs of RAM, which we had a discussion about in the group this week, because there are more people now saying 4 gig is not acceptable. However, if it's not cluttered down with the likes of Chrome and other Google services, and it's running its I don't know how you pronounce this. It's the /E/OS
EOS.
something like that, then maybe it's not going to be needing all the hardware resources to drive it. It's a nice looking idea, isn't it? But I'm not sure if anyone's going to buy into it, because like with Huawei, it's going to be really niche now because they haven't got Google on it.
Well, they've got to have done their research to be able to see that there is people out there looking for, or there are people out there looking for privacy-focused devices. Because even if you were to buy this and give it to a kid or to give it to an elderly person, they're going to end up looking for the Google services anyway, and looking for a way to put them on there.
Exactly, and they'll be disappointed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Probably something and nothing, isn't it? And Android, it's. Oh, I see. The EOS is based on Lineage 10. I didn't realise that. So, right, okay. So if it's on Lineage, well, no, it can't be on Lineage, can it? Because it would have Google on it. Oh, I don't know. Seems a bit of the Marina One. Good luck to them. Hope they do well.
It has its app lounge, and they're showing off a picture of Signal inside the app lounge. So there are some companies out there that are interested in putting their app out for this platform.
Yeah.
And it does run Android apps, so it must be making it simple enough for companies to shape their app for this phone. I don't imagine that it'll run all Android apps natively, because I don't think they can without the Google side of things.
Well, that's what Yola tried to do, wasn't it? They come up with an app store, and what Amazon are doing, come up with an app store that they kind of do a virtual side load of whatever you want to put on it. But it's all a bit of a mess, frankly.
It is, yeah. You're better off staying with a... I don't know. I can't say that. Okay, speaking of pixely type stuff, I was trying to make a segue, but I can't. Yes, there is a prototype that has been visualized over on 9to5 Google, and it is of the Google Pixel 7. And it looks to be a rather nice update because it has a metal frame around it, which is the one thing that I'd say that it really is lacking. It feels a wee bit plasticky around the sides. Not that it is plasticky, but it doesn't feel premium whenever you're holding it without a case. Throwing on this metal side to it might give it that little bit extra that people are screaming out for. What do you think?
I think that these so-called leaks are horribly transparent, and it's obvious what's going on. Someone put it on eBay, and then as soon as 9to5 Google reported it on the listing, it was taken away. So they're just piquing people's interest in what's to come in the future. And I reckon that this is somebody in Google that's orchestrating a leak. And today's news, just this morning I noticed, was that someone on eBay was selling a batch of Pixel 6As. And you think, it's the same thing. I bet you by the time anyone listens to this podcast, that'll be taken down as well. Orchestrated leaks to try and generate interest, I reckon. And they're all as bad as each other.
All right, then. The feckers. Right, okay.
But yes, metal looks nice, I agree. If this is true, and it's what's going to happen, it would be nice to see it in a more... because the Pixel 5 looks more like this. It's got a kind of uniform shell that goes right round. It's like a trough almost on the back, like the old Nokia devices, and it makes it feel a bit more premium and robust. I agree.
Yeah. Well, I would say that out of this, there's probably a lot to leak with Google's upcoming phones, because some folks over at Chroma Box have been hooking through some of the background information, and they've managed to dig up some information on some new devices. Now, they say that the Pixel has code names, obviously, as they normally do, with the Pixel 7 being Panther and the Pixel 7 Pro being Cheetah. Then they boil that down to the C10 being the Cheetah and the P10 being the Panther. However, they've discovered two other devices, one called the Felix and another called the Lynx, which they are thinking might be the Pixel 7a and also the still-to-be announced Pixel Notepad Foldable, which is a bit like the Fold, Samsung Galaxy Fold, that kind of device. However, digging even deeper again, there is the G10, which they are thinking might just be a new premium Pixel device, because the Pro isn't premium enough to be able to measure up to the likes of the S22 Ultra. So what Google could be putting together something else as well that could be a top-notch thing. And they say that the device's physical size, refresh rate, and screen display resolution match that of the Pixel 7 Pro exactly, but the display is being made by BOE, which, as we've already established, is the Bank of England, instead of Samsung. So what might this be? Do you think that Google maybe are going to be putting out a new big boy?
It's an interesting idea, isn't it? And there's no official kind of snicket. The only thing that is out there is about this Pixel tablet, which is coming next year. But they're writing off this code G10 being the tablet because of the data of the physical screen size. As you say, it's the 7 Pro, so it can't be the tablet. I don't know. What else is there? Why can't it be the Fold? Is that because the Fold has got another code name?
Well, because it's got a bigger screen size again as well.
But if you unfold it, then the screen size might be the same as the 7 Pro.
It could be, but they think that
Or it could be a flip.
Is
a flip.
The Lynx, which is the it was probably the L10 actually, given the Cheetah's the C10, the Panther's the P10, F10 must be the Felix, the L10 must be Lynx. So now the G10, which is something else entirely, that is still based around the Pixel 7 Pro. But I do remember some of the comments when looking at the Pixel 6 Pro that, whenever people were comparing it to the S22 Ultra, there really wasn't much competition at all, because the S22 Ultra was just beefed up to no end. Google may be thinking, hang on a second, people may not be buying the Pixel 6 Pro because it's not as top-notch spec topping as the S22 Ultra. And even if we were to make a few of these, we'd probably still sell them, because there's people out there that just have to have the be-all and end-all of technology in their hand, even if they're not going to use it to the maximum extent.
Yeah, it could be, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, that is certainly a theory which could have something to it. It becomes a proper... And my dream would be that they also develop a DeX kind of thing for it as well, and turn it into a HDMI out, the whole lot. That'd be really neat, wouldn't it? And then
there's an idea.
Then a 3.5mm added, and a micro SD card added.
No, what I'm thinking is maybe G could stand for like gaming 10.
Oh, right.
And it could be a dedicated Stadia device.
Ah, right.
That's like a
pocket,
a black Redmi Gamer or Asus ROG phone type thing.
Okay.
For the gamers who are out there who want Stadia on the go.
Why aren't they smart enough to have worked that out? They relied on us to work that out. Well, you actually.
Yeah, but it's not going to be that, because I am always wrong.
It could be. It could be though. Going back to my idea about the Fold, it could be that, because the panel could easily end up being. No, sorry, not the Fold, the Flip, because the panel, like the Flip 4, if you open it up, it could be the same size as the 7 Pro. So this could be the idea about a flip phone.
Could be, yes. Oh, there's all to play for, so we've got plenty of leaks to go. So let's get these leaks rolling out, even though Ted hates them all and dresses them down.
Yeah.
All right, staying with the number 7, but this time expanding it to 7T, is the Honor 7T Pro and the 7T Pro Plus, which have been unveiled with the Dimensity 8000 and 9000 processors inside them, respectively. There's a 54 megapixel main camera, And they all look very, very nice. 6.78-inch screen with 1920 hertz. Wait a minute, what is that? 120 hertz, but 1920 hertz. High frequency PWM dimming. That's what it stands for. I see. And it's 10.7 bit for those who really like their specs. So these are the high-end Honor phones that we're looking forward to getting at some point. I think we touched on the regular Honor 70 last week or the week before, and these are the big brothers. Anything that you've noticed that's particularly exciting about them?
Interesting that the 70 itself is the kind of, the cheap version of the range, I suppose. But actually, in some ways, it's got better specifications. Like, for example, it's got a bigger camera. Oh, sorry, it's got a bigger battery. It's got it's got 512 gigabytes of storage as an option with 12 gigs of RAM. It's almost as if the bottom end one, which is only €380, apparently when it comes out for the base model, is kind of specced up in some ways that the others aren't. For example, also it's got a Snapdragon 778G Plus, which is a 6nm chipset, whereas the other two, the Pro and the Pro Plus, have got MediaTek Dimensity ones, as you say, 8000 and 9000. The screen size is slightly different, but in other ways, there's a lot of common ground between them. Like, as you say, with the main camera, the 3x optical zoom is only available in the Pro and Pro Plus. That's not on the base model. And also you lose the stereo speakers, but you do get no you don't, I thought you did, get a 3.5mm audio, but that's not available on any of them. And of course there's no Qi charging on any of them. The range goes from €380 to €520 to €600 across the range. Interesting to see what they're doing.
They're not knockingly expensive. They're quite handsomely priced.
Yeah, and no doubt there'll be more for the bigger storage and the bigger RAM. But yeah, the base models have got 256 gigabytes of storage, so that's really good to begin with. I'm interested to see what Honor are going to do on this kind of new wave of decent devices coming across. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at the comparison between them all on GSM Arena, and there isn't really too much in it to put you off even the lower models. I say that resolution and screen size is about the only thing. Yeah. Indeed. They are good looking devices as well, and they're really pushing across the art that's on the back of them too, with some interesting designs as well, featuring a girl and a cat, which is, I suppose, an interesting idea.
Yes.
And weird creaturey type things. That'd be quite nice. Remember that was a whole thing? What was the HTC Wildfire? You could send imagery in and they would print it on the back of the case and send it to you.
What was it they called that? There was I can't remember now.
Yeah, you could take the case off, actually. That's what it was. I remember I bought my daughter a Wildfire, wasn't it? Or whatever it happened to be. And she went on and she designed this case. And then they sent the case to me, and we took off the case that was on there and put this on instead. It was a good idea. Yeah,
good stuff. Yeah.
All right. Other devices include the Black Shark 5 and 5 Pro, which is the global launch is coming up in a few days. Actually, Ted, you're a bit of a fan of the Black Shark series, aren't you?
Well, I've never actually had one, but I've always kind of been drawn to it, mainly because of price. You buy an ROG phone and it's like £1,100 or something, and then suddenly you look at the Black Shark ones, which are not as well specified as those, but they're just so much cheaper. These ones are going between €470 for the base model, which is the Black Shark 5 RS. I don't know what RS stands for. Really simple. No.
Yes.
And the 5...
Rightly so.
Yes. The 5 itself, €500, and the the 5 Pro, €600. So again, a bit like the Honor ones, they're not pricing themselves out of this, but the specs are really good in terms of having a Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 on the Pro model and the 870 on the second model. And spookily, again, like we just said about Honor, the base model's got a 888 Plus chipset, which is more so than the kind of middle model. So it's all the same screen sizes, 6.67, which are sizable, but it is a gaming phone, obviously, and the focus is all about gaming. I haven't drilled down to look at the any shoulder buttons or whatever, but I'm assuming that they're the same as they're the same magnetized ones that click up on the edge. Yeah. So it's clearly a gaming phone, and supported by the fact that there's no Qi charging, as there doesn't tend to be. But yeah, good stereo speakers, and what's not to like? Well, I'll tell you what might be not to like is that it comes with Android 12, but Joy UI. Joy UI. Can you just imagine what that's like? I've never seen it, and I could be speaking out of turn, but I'm just imagining that it's probably horrific. But I don't know, might be all right.
Well, I'm sure they would try and do their best not to make it horrific. Come try our new UI. It's horrific. Wow. Okay. Moving on to something else. The Banana Pi, as opposed to the Raspberry Pi. This is a new small computer that is being developed, and it's got some upgraded specs over the regular Raspberry Pi for mini PC people who are looking for really tiny computers to put into things to achieve useful tasks, I suppose. This has a quad-core ARM Cortex A73 inside, which also has a dual-core ARM Cortex A53, which is a good bit better than what you see on the standard Raspberry Pi CM4. It also has a Broadcom Video Core VI. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. That's on the Pi. What are they talking about? Okay, it's got 4 gigabytes of RAM, and it's got storage of between 16 and 120 gigabytes of eMMC available on board. I don't know. There's 4K HDMI output, which is quite nice. There's Wi-Fi 5 and 6 options, and Gigabit Ethernet. But the one thing I get about the whole doing up the Pi is that they seem to be getting away from the idea that these are excessively cheap. I don't see the price tag here. And what people do look for is cheapness, because the whole idea of the Raspberry Pi initially, whenever it first came out, it was like $20 when it first arrived, and you could do really cool little tasks with them because it was just something so small and so simple that could just perform tiny tasks that you needed it to do.
Why is this different then to the Raspberry Pi?
I'm not entirely sure. I don't understand why anyone would go and have to add in extra things to the Raspberry Pi to make it a wee bit different, unless they're. I don't get it. Yes, you have to keep up obviously with technology, and putting in something like Wi-Fi 6 is a necessary update whenever people want to be able to achieve that faster thing. If you run, say, a media server powered by your Raspberry Pi or indeed the Banana Pi, having Wi-Fi 6 on there is going to help you to no end. But I guess it's just progress of hardware.
Maybe it's just competition. It's like just someone else starting up a startup in competition to Raspberry Pi.
But they need to get the price right.
Yeah.
Because I'm always put off a wee bit more by Raspberry Pi, because each incarnation is getting a wee bit too expensive for you to justify buying it, to put in there to do that one thing that you want your Raspberry Pi to do.
Yeah.
You know, I've got my Pi hole. I've thought about adding more to it to get it to do more things, rather than going out and actually buying a Raspberry Pi, because they are not 20 quid anymore. They're more like 40 or 50 quid, which is it's becoming into it's moving into different territory where you need to know what you're putting it into. They're not playthings anymore. They are actually investments.
Right. Okay. Well, I don't know anything about this. I'm glad you do. But
Well, I don't. I'm ignorant in the ways of Raspberry Pi. I happen to have set one up and got it to do something,
Right.
and I like the idea of being able to set it up to do other things as well.
we'll ask Ian Barton. He'll know. Ian, what is a banana pie all about?
Are you excited about the Banana Pi? Will you be getting one? Is it going to replace some of the Raspberry Pis that you have? And if so, what are you going to do with those older Raspberry Pis? Do you have other tasks that you would like the Raspberry Pi to do?
Indeed.
Answer all of those on the back of a postcard, and we'll read them out next week. Okay. Ted, you have an exciting new phone that could kill someone if you throw it at them.
Yeah, this is the Ookie. We've spoken about Ookie-tel before, and before I go to the main USP here, I will just say that the problem with these phones is about what they're doing with your data, where it's going, and blah blah blah. There's no evidence to say that there's anything negative there, but you just wonder. And also the fact that they're never updated. These phones, like Black Phone and what the other one's called, Doogie, and all of that sort of thing. Here's another one though. The
Doogie?
Doogie? No, Doogie. Anyway, here's another one. Uli phone. That's another one, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Uli phone. Anyway, this has got a 21,000 milliamp hour battery. 21,000 milliamp hour battery, which is 4 times the size of the battery. No, in fact, it's 5 times the size of the battery inside my Pixel 5 and 4 times in the Edge Plus, which is just staggeringly big. And you can see that the device is very fat. I haven't got a problem with that. Fat devices are fine. I'd rather have a big battery and go fatter, personally, but I'm sure that most people wouldn't. They'll look at this and think, yeah, you're right, this is for knocking people out or, propping your wheel up on your car. It's 4 hours to fully recharge it, says this article on Fandroid. The other specs include a 6.7-inch LCD screen with a 90Hz refresh rate, a Helio G95, which is okay, I suppose. It is only 4G, so no 5G here for those that want it. And it's got quite a good storage at 256, 8 gigs of RAM, blah, blah, blah. Military grade certification like the Nokia XR20, and it looks like it's going to cost around €649. Now that's expensive. I know it's got a whacking great big battery on it, but if you're going to take the risk and buy one of these kind of Ookie-tel Doogie Uli phones, then you're going to want to be spending about 200 quid on it, not 650 quid. If you're going to spend 650 on a phone, I think you're probably going to be kind of bypassing the fact that this has got a whacking great big battery and get something more valuable with your 650 quid. Don't you?
Sure, yeah. It's just useful to have a nice big battery. I like the design of it.
Yeah.
I do. I think that the back of it looks pretty beefy.
Industrial.
Kind of, yes. It looks like the kind of case that you'd want to have on your phone with one of those extra batteries that you take with you.
Yeah. A Moto Mod.
Aye, one of those types of things, yeah. And I think you see them all the time on the back of iPhones as well, where people have those backup battery cases that they use. This does look something like one of those.
A chunky monkey.
That's the one. So, Sony are going to be unveiling a trio of X-series wireless speakers.
Ooh.
Ted, I take it this is something that you're going to be all over because you do love yourself some Sony speakers, don't you?
There's no mention of the 360 reality audio, though, I noticed. So they're obviously bypassing that. Or they've given...
That's so last year.
Yeah, I was going to say, perhaps they've given up on it because they realised it didn't work. Chris Kelly told them it doesn't work. It defies logic. It defies physics. So they've gone back to these kind of rough and tumble devices as well. The XG300 is the flagship of this little range, and it's got all the waterproofing you'd expect and rust proofing. which I think is the same thing, isn't it? 25 hours of battery life and quick charging as well. It's got the usual Sony lights thing going on it, which is very kind of hip and trendy these days. I can't say that I'd be particularly wanting it. And it's got a handle so you can carry it and take it down the beach for your barbecue or your
revolutionary
or your seafood extravaganza in Northern Ireland. 259 quid, which is quite a lot, really, for one of these Bluetooth speakers, I think. The other ones in the range are cheaper, but then they're less powerful and they got less capability and they got less battery life in them as well. I think the interesting one here is the most expensive one, as it usually is, let's face it. But I don't know, what do you think?
I think the XG300 looks quite nice. I wouldn't pick it out as a Sony speaker. The other two look rough.
Yeah.
They look like they're made of polystyrene or something.
Yeah, and they've got that design from the Reality Audio 360 devices. That they look a bit like that, the design on that, whereas the XG300 is just completely different, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, although 24 hours of battery life is quite impressive for £170. The other one has 16 hours of battery life for £140. It's not bad, I suppose.
Yeah. I bet you they sound good though, particularly that expensive one, because any Sony speakers I've had in the past are just stunning. The only complaint I've had about them is that they're too bassy. And you often can't turn the bass down. Hopefully, well, it says that it hooks into the app. One of them hooks into the app, so you can change things. The Music Center app on Android and on iOS, I think, and you can tweak stuff with that. So hopefully you can tone that down if it's too bassy. But yeah, that was my observation previously.
Tone that down. Down. Yeah. All right. Moving on. LG have a rather strange-looking monitor that they're looking to put out, and it's designed for those strange people. Well, no, I can understand why you would want this. It's almost like a square monitor that is two monitors on top of each other, and you can divide screens. So I have a work computer and I have my regular computer, and I have to hit the button to flip between them whenever I'm using both of them at the same time, which is a bit of a pain. This, I could essentially use the upper portion of it to display one of the computers and the lower portion to display the other computer, which would be a kind of a funky way of doing things if you have a couple of different sources going into your computer. But I imagine that you can also set this up to be able to work as a differing display as well, and have one big display too, which kind of it's like an ultra wide screen but vertically as opposed to horizontally.
You can turn it around though.
Yeah, but it's still square,
yeah,
so
yeah.
That doesn't make much of a difference.
Right. I really like it. I want one. I think that I would make good use of that, and it's very good space wise as well. So you see these people with these like multiple monitors around their desk, and it looks like air traffic control, and you think this is actually brings it all together a bit. If you want to open it all up into one screen, as you say, you can. If you want to have it as two, you can. You could, I really, really like this. How much is it? Is it on sale? I think it is, isn't it?
I'm just going over to Amazon here to see.
$699. So yeah, it's not cheap, is it? But then it does a lot. Somebody in the group was saying they want two. I think it was Frank Neidhart. I think he said, I want two of these next to each other. So 4 screens and then turn them round as well.
Well, having a look on the UK version of Amazon, it's not available, but it is in America.
Okay.
So hopefully it's in a 90-watt USB Type-C charging on there, 16 by 18 aspect ratio. So it's an interesting looking idea.
Yeah. I like her mouse. You see her mouse? I wonder what that is. In the top the top picture, the black mouse on the top picture. That looks like a really interesting little design. Anyway.
Oh, it's got that kind of cross section so that your hand doesn't sweat when you've got your hand. I've got one of those on my gaming mouse over there.
Oh, right. That would suit you because you were moaning last week about sweating hands on Mises.
Just your thumb, the thumb sticking in the wee groove or alcove that your thumb goes in. It can get warm in there, especially during the summer.
Oh, has this got a battery in it as well? No.
Does it?
Why would it have a battery in it? It says 90-watt USB-C charging. A monitor.
Because it can charge your devices.
Oh, I see. Out. That means going out. Right, okay. It's not in any way a portable monitor then. Right, okay. Carry on, as you were.
Thank you, Brendan. Okay, good news for those who bought the Sega Mega Drive, mini Sega Mega Drive. They're making a second one. This is the Sega Mega Drive 2 Mini, which features a Sega CD. Unfortunately, they've gone with the design of the Mega Drive 2, or I can't remember it now off the top of my head. It's not the original Mega Drive with the CD underneath it. It's the Mega CD that they put out that sits alongside the smaller version of the Mega Drive. Oh, it's not working for me today. I can't remember the names of them. They've made a bit of a design error and they've gone with the non-iconic one. But then I suppose the original Mega Drive Mini was designed more in line with the original Mega Drive when it came out. And for those American listeners who are going, what the hell are you talking about? The Genesis, the Sega Genesis. So this is their third miniaturized console, if you want to include those ridiculous Game Gear minis that they put out some time ago. And they've got some Sega CD games in there as well. There's something like 48 games inside this package, which might be kind of nice, but hold back on them until you work out which ROMs essentially they're using, because there has been problems in the past where they've put out non-PAL versions of them and the games haven't run at the right speeds. So tread with care. But this is Japanese first, and they're saying that it's more likely not going to be US at any point, but we'll see as it comes out. They're saying that Sonic the Hedgehog CD is going to be on there, plus Shining Force CD, Sliffheed, Virtual Racing, and Bonanza Brothers are also included, which is kind of nice. The mini consoles are really coming on, but I think there's too many, and it would just be better for them to release, I don't know, a USB that you stick into the one that you've already got, and then you can have more games on that original one, or can replace the games that you've got or something like that, rather than having 20 odd mini games consoles set there beside your original games console too. Ted, you have a SNES Mini, isn't it?
Yeah, I do. And I, to be honest, I don't hardly ever use it. I think it's got about 25 games on it. And if I'm really bored, I kind of get it out and have a play around and see what's there. But most of the games are really kind of rubbish, to be honest. And in terms of Sega, I never had Sega at all. I don't think I did. Although I've got a vague memory of playing Sonic the Hedgehog on something. So perhaps I did at one point. But all of those games that you just mentioned, I mean nothing to me. Again, back in my Nintendo kind of camp, but the hardware looks really neat. I really like the look of that. I like the curves and the design of it, and presumably the cartridge thingy on the left will be if you've got cartridges, but they'll assume that everyone's going to be using the CD instead, will they?
Well, you'd like to think so, but there's not that many CD games available,
right?
Really, in comparison to the cartridges. There are a lot of CD games available, but there's not that many iconic ones, unless you want to play Mad Dog McCree or something like that. But having a look through some of the images here, I can see it's Virtual Racing 2, I think, or maybe no, it is just the original Virtual Racing. Fantasy Zone's there as well, which was released on almost every platform I can think of. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's worth importing. The price is going to be about $75. And that includes one controller. I don't know that it would be worth. But I suppose there's diehard collectors out there, and because it's coming from Sega, they'll be all over.
Does the 48 game CD come with it for that price?
I'd like to think so.
Yeah, okay. Right. Okay, then.
Oh, it's a couple of CDs, actually, come to think of it, yeah.
Right.
Games are hardwired, faithful reproductions, and have not been remastered or enhanced.
Oh, Sega will also release a cosmetic Sega CD attachment for $37, whatever that means. Sega CD attachment. I don't know.
Right, okay.
Yeah. We got too many of them.
Yes, I think it's... they're hungry now. Flippin' heck, they're going to have to wait a while. We're only halfway through.
Ooh.
My wife has just texted me saying she's hungry.
Oh.
It's only 12:15. No, it's not. It's 20 to 1. Flippin' heck. Right, moving on. Microsoft's Edge browser is access denied. I can't get to windowslatest.com for some reason.
It's not very exciting. Windows Edge have just tried to do what Google are doing with Chrome, basically, doing a kind of makeover to make it look prettier. It's of no real consequence. I don't know what I put it in there for, to be honest. It's just prettying up Windows, the front end, and making some of the windows a bit transparent and all that claptrap. Moving along.
All right. I'm more interested in the fact that I can't access the website. I was able to from a Chromebook earlier on today to have a quick read at it, but I can't do it from a desktop, which is bizarre, unless it's one of the pop-up blockers that's built into this. But it would be the same ones that are on my Chrome browser on my Chromebook. Bizarre. TikTok, flippin' heck, has a new distraction-free clear mode, given that TikTok is entirely a distraction.
I don't get this. I don't understand why the TikTok people would offer people a clear mode which strips out all of the stuff around it that all the users, all the creators, all the people that are actually putting their videos up want people to tap on in order to get them to sign up and to follow and blah, 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 and like and not like. Why would they rip that out? I think people are less likely to use this over, say, YouTube Shorts, because they know that everyone, myself included, will turn clear mode on, so you don't have to look at all that crap around the screen. I don't get the motivation why they're doing it.
Yeah, while you were talking there, it just occurred to me, I don't know why it popped into my head, but can you imagine what the future's going to be like whenever Squarespace doesn't exist? And people go back and look at YouTube and go, let's have a dig down memory lane. And there's going to be millions of videos that are sponsored by Squarespace.
Oh, right.
Because they embed them entirely in the video. So they're going to be for platforms and things that don't exist anymore. And razors and stuff like that. Harry's, razors. All these things that people are doing now to try and get more views and get people to like and subscribe. Imagine if YouTube was to suddenly change the way that you interact with it with like buttons and subscribe, but all these videos, thousands and millions of them, have this, remember to subscribe to my channel, because, we don't know to do that.
And it's not there.
Yeah.
I had that on a much, much smaller scale. I have that problem with Whatever Works, our audio podcast that me and Aidan Bell do. And I looked through some of the links in previous shows, which is all still there, all the show notes going right back to the beginning. And they're all links out to Google+. And they're all just dead. And whenever in order to change that, I would have to go through every single show, every single link, and just change them all to something else so that they made sense. Of course, I'm not going to bother, so they just sit there as dead links. If anyone ever looked at it, similar principle.
But at least you can actually change them.
Yes.
Whereas these videos with this is sponsored by Squarespace, if they cease to exist tomorrow, there's going to be a huge amount of wasted space on Google servers of all these 4K filmed promos for a company that doesn't exist anymore, called Squarespace.
Indeed, you're quite right. But going back to this TikTok story, you'd turn it off, wouldn't you?
I turned off TikTok, yeah.
No, I mean, if you were using TikTok and you had the option to use clear mode, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? Of course you're going to do it. And so I don't get why they're trying to cut their people out, and push them towards YouTube Shorts. Anyway, that's just me.
they've got to have some other way that they're going to start pushing things in, maybe to get people to advertise in the videos or something like that. To say, hey, subscribe today, hit that, as they do on YouTube. Maybe that YouTube has proved that there's an easier way for people to do that, or there's a better way.
We shall see.
I don't know. If I knew more about TikTok, I'd be able to comment, but I don't, so I'm not going to.
No, good idea.
All right. So tell us about the Bing search bar. I can't access that either.
This is just outrageous. That it's a bit like what Google have done with the Pixel phones. They've forced every user to have a Google search bar on their homepage, and there's no choice. You've got it. Actually, you don't now because they've taken it away. But you can. No, they haven't. It is still there. Anyway, if you're a Windows desktop user, they're going to put a Bing search bar up top centre middle on your Windows desktop, and that's it. No way of moving it, no way of deleting it without, no doubt, hacking the registry or something, but which most people won't do or know how to do, and you're just going to be lumped with it. A Bing search bar up front and centre. Whether you use Bing or not, it'll be there. Outrageous.
Absolutely outrageous. Incredible that they would actually try to implement such a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to write to my MP about that.
Good idea. Right. Bitwarden. You're a Bitwarden user, aren't you?
I am, yes, but I'm having trouble accessing this website that you've linked to.
What?
Windows Latest. Oh. It won't let me do this, so I'm going to try turning off my Raspberry Pi for a few seconds to see if that makes a difference. Can I access it now? No, still access denied.
Mm.
How bizarre. Must be my WireGuard.
That's the wrong link anyway. That's not the Bitwarden link. Oh, that's the Bitwarden link. Our links have got screwed up together there. If you click on the word Bitwarden at the beginning of that link, you get to the right link. Yeah, that one.
Right. It's over on Android Police. A website I can view. Okay, yes, I do use Bitwarden, and I like it very much. I recommend that most people should go out and entertain this one because it's free and open source, and it manages your passwords very nicely. I've tried LastPass and was keep something or other before that, and whilst you can pay for the options, Bitwarden puts everything in for free. So I've never needed to pay for Bitwarden, and I've always found it as less finicky on the mobile.
Right, I fixed the link now, and this story is about they're letting you make fake alias email addresses.
I wouldn't say fake. But they are letting you set up relay services to be able to push email toward your email account without having to give your email away online. So they're proper email addresses, but detached from you. It's a great idea. It allows you to be able to set up for websites that you're not entirely happy about giving over your details because you might end up getting spam and junk and that sort of thing. And people have been using the likes of temporary email addresses and things to sign up for websites. But then later on, you might forget your password or something like that and have to try and reset your password, which is almost impossible whenever you've used a 10-minute email address. So this allows you to do that, but have a throwaway email address that you don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
I don't like using my personal email, so I've started using my Gmail more so for signing up for things because it handles it a wee bit better, but it's still a bit frustrating. So I will absolutely be all over this, and they seem to be doing it in conjunction with Firefox Relay, the email forwarding service. Mm-hmm. Would you be tempted to move across and try something like this instead of using all your stuff through Google Chrome?
No.
Oh.
I've got my arrangements set up, and they work really well. I've got a few, disposable email addresses, inverted commas, which I sign up with things with, and it works for me okay. I don't feel the need to go and do a load more. And we discussed before about passwords management, and I'm quite happy with the way I do it. I don't feel like I need Bitwarden. One day when I get stung, no doubt, you'll say, "Told you."
Yeah, and from the sounds of things, whenever you do get stung, it'll be a nightmare.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Please, people, don't hack them. Don't go out there and hack them. It's not nice. Right. So I didn't know anything about Android's sound amplifier until I read this article. And now I've had a play with it. I think it's quite impressive. And Google have gone and updated it. Do tell us about the sound amplifier on Android.
The sound amplifier and Lookout are services that are Android accessibility services, and I think probably iOS as well. I don't know that, but probably. And they help people with hearing impairments and with sight impairments to do stuff. And this one, the sound amplifier update, they've updated to kind of tweak the UI and to make it a bit better and work better. They've made the noise cancelling stuff a bit better as well. I tried it out as well, but unfortunately the updated version is not with me yet. It hasn't arrived, so I can't really talk about the updates. But the before the update, it seems to work okay. It does clarify things. So if you put a pair of headphones on and you put the sound amplifier app running and then, for example, put the radio on across the room, you do get a real clarification of the particularly the kind of top end of that. With my ears, that's what I was hearing anyway. And you can tweak it around and add bass and all the rest of it. The Lookout thingy adds images. Now that's coming. It's not here yet at all. And that's something we spoke about with Steve Nutt on PSE a few weeks ago, whereby you can point your phone at anything pretty much, and it will describe to you what it's seeing, which is really good and helpful. And also, like it does with Google Lens, it will read menus to you and all the all that stuff as well. So yeah, interesting changes to those accessibility apps on their way.
Yeah, I just installed Lookout and I'm setting it up now.
Is it available?
It is available.
Not the images mode though. The new bit. Or maybe you have got it. I haven't got it.
Well, I clicked through your link or through the link on was it Chrome Unboxed, and it took me to the new layout for Google Play and allowed me to install it on my Mmmm.
Oh, of course, you've got a Pixel in your hand, haven't you? Oh, I've got a Motorola, so maybe it's on Pixels but not out. I'll check that later with my Pixel 5.
Ah, yeah, you need a superior device. All right. The last thing that we have here is just kind of goes in with what we have on TikTok there. This is Google launching their new My Ad Center, which allows you to see different types of ads, and you can jigger around with them depending on what you actually want to see. It's kind of an interesting idea. Where you're going to start seeing ads, you can tell them, I don't want to see ads about pregnancy or gambling or alcohol or weight loss or any of those sorts of things, and then it'll start to push other advertising that you may be more interested in. So it allows you to cater the advertising that you see. Obviously, you're not going to be able to turn everything off and avoid advertising, because that's how Google generates their revenue. But if they make it a more comfortable experience for you to see ads that you care about, it might make for a more pleasant experience online if you're using Google services. Now, this also harks back to when, I think a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, I was ranting about algorithms and how they all go on about how great their algorithms are, whenever I don't reckon they have any algorithms. They're just it's just luck, and they push stuff at you, and if you see the right thing, then great. If you don't, tough. If anything, there might be just the tiniest amount of algorithming going on where they go, oh, you've looked at this, so we'll start showing you things about that. And that's the only thing that you get in an algorithm. And they say that their algorithms are great, but they're actually bollocks. This could be their admission of guilt here, where, our algorithm isn't working terribly well. Are you interested in seeing gambling advertising? And if not, then you can limit it.
The strength of this will be will they monitor you for then clicking through and buying? So if you adapt it to your own wishes and you say, right, I only want to look at adverts about this, and this, and this, and this, you come up with a list of 20 things that you'll allow through, then you never click on them and never do anything with any of them, and don't go and buy anything, don't even look. will they then start filtering other ones back in to annoy you into doing it again and keeping your they do this to some degree in the Google feed to the left of your home screen on a Pixel. And other devices, and also on Google News, where you can tell it you don't want to see any more articles from Ipswich Times or some obscure New York publication, and you can tweak it as you go. And it's supposed to work in the same way in there, but invariably millions of other ones come back at you. And I mean, you must have seen all that.
Oh yeah. I'm just having a look through some of the screenshots here. I had to do a double take there because it's Dr. Fork, not what I thought it said, Dr. something else. But you can add brands so that you see more things from brands, which would be, I suppose, good in the long run, because then you start to see the savings that you want to make. Although I don't recognise any of the brands that they're listing.
Is this an app?
Yeah.
So you have to install it in order to control it, do you?
Oh, well, I don't know if you have... Yeah, no, I think you do. I'm going to see if I can get it. No, well, we're live on air.
For example...
My ad center. Oh, no.
Apparently they announced it at Google I/O. I don't remember that bit. And I sat through the whole lot. I must have switched off.
Yes.
Customizing your ads on Google. My ad center with an American center.
Yeah, as opposed to the French.
Yeah. Vive la France. Up the revolution. Madame Guillotine.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, we'll see more of this developing over time, and being able to control the ads is obviously a good thing, especially whenever you've got kids around you as well, because you don't want your kids being advertised gambling or guns or all those things that you see online.
We'll see.
That only exist online.
I'll keep an eye open for it and install it when I can, if it's installable. It might be just pushed from the server into the Google bit of your phone.
It could be, yeah.
Don't know.
All right. Well, what's coming next on Chrome OS?
Cloud gaming launcher. This is a quick one, which on Chrome OS on your Chromebook you will see eventually on the app kind of launcher thingy that you pop up on the left-hand side now. Up the top there, they'll be trying to tempt you into gaming by putting little plugs at the top, like they do on Google TV now, to try and get you to click through to Stadia and other such gaming fronts that they can trap you into, and also. Gallery app on Chromebooks is gaining Google Photos integration for easy editing. Right, okay.
Oh, hurrah.
I didn't know, if I did know, I'd forgotten about this Gallery app on my Chromebook. I don't think I've ever used it. I had a look at it and I thought to myself, why does this exist? This feels like something that Google is just going to ditch somewhere down the line, because you've got Android apps now available on pretty much all Chromebooks, I think. You can choose whatever apps you like, and this thing is controlling a front end media service for what? For a bunch of services which are just available in apps. I don't get why this exists. Have you ever noticed this and seen what are the four windows that it covers? What are they? Imaging and music and something else and something else. And I just don't see the point of it when you've got all these plethora of Android apps that can do the same job anyway. Did you know that Gallery was there?
Yeah, I use it all the
Really?
time.
What do you use it for?
Everything I'm doing on my blog at the moment, I'm doing through a Chromebook to keep that techie side of it. And all the images that are on there are done through the Gallery app, save for putting a bit of text on it, which you can't quite do. I would have been doing it through Google Photos, but they severed that connection some time ago.
What do you mean? Sever the connection?
Originally, Google Photos worked with Chrome OS.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
And it would show up in the File Explorer type thing, or the Files app.
Okay.
And instead they cut that off, and they they worked on this gallery app,
Okay.
and it's a grand gallery app. It's not particularly snazzy, but it works, and it does most of the things that you would want.
What
it
about
to
the other three things? Do you ever use those?
Name them again.
Playing music is one of them. Well, I can't remember. I can't find the screenshot. Where's the screenshot of what the four things? I haven't got a Chromebook open here to have a look. Have you got a Chromebook open?
No, I left it down charging.
There's four things that it does, and I looked at this, and let's not dwell on it too long. But of the four things, it sounds to me like you've got one that you use, and
I use it for video as well because it is a pretty good media player for playing back videos as well. If you download it, I generally find that everything runs through it.
Yeah, but I've got VLC, and the VLC app will just. My point is that this is just doubling up what you can get on Android, which you can just use your apps, which is what I do.
But not everybody wants to use Android apps. I try not to use Android apps. I'd rather use whatever is built into Chrome first, and if it doesn't cut it, then I'll go and entertain an Android app. I use MX Player on most devices, but recently I found that there's less and less need for that because Chrome's Gallery app does do most of the stuff that I want it to do, and on the Pixel, yes, the Gallery app that's built into the Pixel is a bit annoying that you have to use kind of Google Photos as your main function there. Being able to review images that you've just taken pictures of, you have to go into the camera to then open the photograph that you've just taken. It would be nice to have a dedicated gallery app, so you have to go and find one yourself.
Oh, here it is. I found it now. I've got a photo of it. Editing images, fill out PDFs. Well, if there's one thing that there's millions of in the Android apps, it's filling out PDFs. Watch videos, again VLC. Listen to audio. Well, there's 1,000,001 different ways, including VLC, to listen to audio. I think this is something that they're just going to ditch. I really do. I don't think there's any future in this, and I'm surprised they're updating it with a feature. Back to you.
Well, why do you have to rely on Android apps? Some people don't actually use Android at all on their Chromebook. My wife doesn't.
Well, she doesn't need a Chromebook then, really, does she?
But then why not just get an Android tablet?
Because you might want a nice keyboard.
Well, you can get an Android tablet with a click-on keyboard. Samsung make many of them. Huawei do too.
Of course, there's arguments all round for this, isn't there? What did you think about the cloud gaming launcher thing? Changing the subject.
Couldn't care about it.
Right then, moving on.
But I like my media app, and I hope that they keep it going because it's good to be able to have one built in, especially when you're offline.
Okay, I'll have another look at it and see if I can conclude something different, particularly with what you're saying about Google Photos. Fair enough.
And it doesn't cost money because most of them you have to go and take out some sort of, like Pixlr, you have to pay $7 a month or something to be able to use their online solution.
Not VLC.
And Google Photos doesn't work particularly well with Chrome, which is bonkers.
Bonkers. Absolutely bonkers.
Totally. Right, hark back. Now, I was down in the shed the other day, and I was looking at my son's bicycle. And he has this little Bugs Bunny bicycle, which is far too small for him now. But my wife had attached on one of those kind of funky horns that you could push a button, and it would make different noises and that kind of thing. But I don't think kids nowadays, maybe it's because we're so protective of them, but they don't tend to use bicycles as much as we did when we were lads.
No.
You know, I'd be cycling off around the coast on adventures with Sprocket and Sandy and Gunther, my friends, my invisible friends. And I would just head off and do all these sorts of things. And cycling, I think, was much more important to kids back then, and there was a whole unique bicycle end of things that manufacturers were trying to tap into. Raleigh would do a bunch of exciting bikes and things like that, and everyone had a favourite BMX that they always wanted. But one of the kids at the top of the street had this thing called a Raleigh Vectar, Vektar, and it was like a smart bike, before bikes were smart. And I know that whenever they were arriving, they kind of looked quite cool. But whenever the kids actually got them, they tended to get a bit bullied because they were really rare. And they were a bit embarrassing to have. And I know the kids that used them didn't tend to use them terribly often because they had a number of cheap gimmicks built into them as well. But on this bicycle, it kind of looked a bit space age, with bits of molded plastic attached to the frame of a regular, well, not very good BMX, and it had mud guards to keep the spray of mud off your backside and your front side, and then on the crossbar there was a computer center which had a bunch of small computers built into it. Now the first one was essentially like a sort of a mileometer, or it would measure your speed and the distance that you'd cycled and things like that. So it was a wee bit advanced for what you had there, and I think that bumped up the price a good bit. But then underneath that there was like a sound effect generator which had a bunch of built-in sound effects that you could flick between, and it was complicated to use as well. I remember I was watching a video actually on YouTube earlier on today about how you use these, and you would turn it on, you'd flick between selections, so you'd have to try and find the one that you were looking for in order to be able to make the noise, which was silly, and it was kind of annoying. It might be in Memory Bank 3 sound effect 4 for the one that is a missile that goes, and it was all bleepy blip blop type sound effects. There was nothing particularly radical about them at all. They sounded like your Atari, if anything. There was a radio built in as well, a tuner that you could pick up the local radio, which I don't think kids back then were particularly interested in listening to the 6 o'clock news on their bikes whenever they were cycling home. But you could, I suppose, play back some music as well, and be able to, I don't know, listen to classic FM as you cycle along to Ride of the Valkyries going, blue, boo, boo. The idea was there. It's just it was sadly and poorly implemented. And it was a medium wave tuner as opposed to an FM tuner, I think, as well. There was something about it that it wasn't quite as good. And then there were 2 spare slots for other mods that were going to be released, and I don't think any ever were, but there might have been. Did you ever hear of the Vectar? Were you aware of it?
No, never heard of it. But then you see, I'm older than you, and when I was a kid, the whole thing in those days was not BMX. It was about choppers and derivatives of choppers, and that was the bike that if you were anyone, you'd have a chopper, and that wasn't smart at all, except that it had a gear lever in the middle, like a car in front of you, in the similar position to your Vectar, actually, down the middle. The observation that I've got with this, and I watched the video earlier as well, and it was quite fascinating to watch, someone playing with it and seeing what you could do with it. But it's just so ugly. Well, a couple of observations is that it's really nickable, isn't it? I mean, you wouldn't want to leave this outside a shop or something. It's the first thing that people are going to try and nick from you, and it's just so ugly. All that white plastic, and it just looks like it's, like you said at the outset, really. They've taken a bike and they've kind of bolted stuff onto it. It looks like an unfinished project, which apparently, according to this article, cost them £500,000 to develop and to test and to get out there. Do you know if it was a complete flop? Do you know how many were sold, or how many were, was the project abandoned shortly afterwards, or what?
I imagine it probably was. I knew one kid who had one, and I'd seen other ones around, and it was a case of, people would chuckle at them going, oh my word, they've got a Vectar. Oh. And you'd laugh at them. They were about as successful as the Sinclair C5,
okay, right.
Of which I knew one kid who had one, and people would chuckle at him whenever he tried to use it down the town. You couldn't cycle it too fast because the bits of plastic would flap in the wind, especially that front mud guard. And the friend I had, he would let me cycle it from time to time, just to for the novelty factor. But ultimately, he didn't take it out too far because A, it wasn't as fast as everyone else's bike. B, if you took it anywhere, you had to take a lock with you. And you couldn't really take it along the coast because it was muddy and you could get wet and stuff, whereas all of our bikes were a wee bit more tough and durable for going along there. Also, it had the plastic wheel spokes as opposed to metal wheel spokes, which is one of the big problems, I think. I don't know that it affected the BMX in any way, but I just remember the kids around me having, they would take the piss out of people who had plastic wheel spokes in their bike. I remember my brother had a Peugeot, which had plastic wheel spokes, and they made fun of his bike, whereas I had a Rally that had metal spokes, and they didn't take the piss out of me.
Wow. And
you'd be able to put cards in it and make it sound like a
motorbike.
Oh, yeah,
we did that, yeah. That was funny. And also you could put these kind of coloured things in it. So looking from the side, it looked like there was the wheels were going backwards and making pretty colours.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it just made me think that the Vector, it obviously never got a replacement model. There wasn't a Vector 2. And I don't know that they made any additional mods to go into those two empty bays that were at the bottom of it near the saddle. It just didn't look very good at all, and it wasn't as cool as could have been.
Those computers and all the gear that made the radio and all that work and the sound effects, it must have been weatherproof, surely, wasn't it?
You'd like to think so, but it's entirely possible that it weren't. Yeah. He didn't take it out terribly often. He would not cycle the bike, and he had to get another bike so that he could go out with the lads on the adventures around the coast.
Did you say what year this we're talking about here?
Oh, I don't know. It says here in the article that I found online, because there's not too many articles about it either. Even on YouTube, there's not too many videos, and they're all a bit kind of... there's no sort of well-produced hark back to Vector on YouTube that I was able to find quite easily. But they say 1985 was around about when this arrived. 85. And I would have been, 8 or 9 at the time. I think that's a bit early. I think it was after that.
Right.
But I suppose by the time, maybe my friend got one cheaper or something like that. But they were £300 when they were released, and adjusted for inflation, that's about £750 of today's money. That's a lot.
Yeah.
For a crap BMX with some plastic stuck to it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Maybe your friend just had it later, second hand, or, when they had got cheaper to buy or whatever, and they've given up on the idea. Good old Rally, eh?
Yeah. I know where he works. I'll maybe go in and ask him if he still got it. Maybe this is his blog. Does it? Yeah. Down? No.
Very good.
Anyway.
Yeah. I've never heard of it, so good hark back for you, and new information for me.
Yes, and ceased the smart bike thing until nowadays, when it suddenly came back with genuinely useful additions to bicycling.
Yeah.
Cycling. Yeah. All right, bargain basement. First one there, Ted.
Yeah. While you're dying, I'll just mention that Ian Barton pointed us in the group to Scan UK Today Only Deals page. If you are after a PC component bargain, it's worth keeping an eye on Scan Today Only Deals page. Scan has been around for many years, he says, and in my experience is a reliable source of computer components on the cheap. So yeah, link in the show notes for Scan UK Today Only Deals. You click through to that. Anything jump out at you?
Well, I will say that the today only part isn't quite accurate. Because I noticed whenever Ian posted this on MeWe earlier in the week, and I clicked in and saw the RAM that I bought quite recently on sale there, and I thought, that's about what I paid for it. And it's still there now.
Oh, right.
Okay. And the top charger, the 4-port support Ugreen 100-watt
Oh
fast
yeah,
charger.
I've got that.
That's been there since I clicked through earlier in the week too.
However, it is cheap because that's 80 quid on Amazon, and I got it for 60 on a special deal, and they're selling it for under 50. So it is cheap.
Yes, but it's not today only. It seems to
All
be.
right.
This is what we have
Pedantic.
sale this week.
It's a good link anyway. Thank you, Ian.
Although that 3070 Ti has been there, and I was looking at it, 659 is almost at the right price to buy it without any discount. So, yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
Right, yes. Next up is the Xiaomi 12, which is currently on sale over on Amazon. This is the smartphone 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage. It's got a 6.28 120 hertz AMOLED display with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 processor inside it. There's a triple camera system, 4,500 milliamp hour battery, and it comes in blue. And it is now reduced in price from £849.99 down to £603.94, which is kind of a nice discount. It is available in other colours, and they're discounted as well, but not as much as the blue one here. And I think the blue actually looks quite nice. It's certainly nicer than the pink, I'll give you that.
Nice phone,
Ted,
yeah.
what do you think of that?
Nice phone. It's only just come out. Yeah, this is what Xiaomi do. They on day 2 of their releases, they suddenly plummet the price. If I was offered 12 months payments on that from Amazon, I might well have jumped, because the thing I like about it the most is that it's a flagship phone, like the bigger ones, but it's physically smaller. It's a 6.2 inch display, and that's the same size as the Pixel 4a 5G, which I can just about manage, and you've got all that lovely Xiaomi goodness. So that's a good deal, and it's a good shout, definitely.
Well, I'm not getting the 5 payments. However, I will note that this is for the 256 gigabyte version. The 128 gigabyte version is £733.
Yeah, slightly ironic.
Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, very odd indeed. Okay, anyway, yeah, it's a good shout, that. It's a nice device. Now, I've got something a bit different now. Something a bit different, which is a monocular telescope with a smartphone adapter. I'm not sure how you adapt it. I think you just kind of plunk it on there. And you can take photographs. If you're into bird watching or peeping through other people's windows,
voyeurism.
That's the kind of thing. Then a nice monocular like this with 12 times 56 high definition. I'm not quite sure how it gets to HD status. I suppose that's for putting through your phone. Looks like quite a device, and it leapt out at me because it was so cheap. Frankly, it was 228 quid is the RRP. It's been reduced to 84 quid, and then there's a £25 voucher on top of that, which brings it down to 25 for 64, 59 quid. So 228 quid's worth of gear, 59 quid. And it looks really nifty. I quite fancy having a play with that, except my eyesight would be a bit wonky. I need to use my glasses still. But yeah, nice little interesting and different item for bargain basement.
It does. It's designed for voyeurs, and there's even a picture of a guy sticking it in his pocket. Which means it's pocketable, but it's going to leave a rather suspicious bulge in the pocket.
Yeah, yes. You'd like to think it was for ornithology mainly.
Yes, I do like the idea of these. I live by the sea, so I do see some ships going up and down that I obviously have to take the binoculars out to have a look at, but they're never quite as powerful as you like to think. I've got an old pair of my granddad's that are quite good, but being able to have something like this to attach on and get some shots. Like the Queen Victoria went up past the house the other day, and I got a shot of it on the way into Belfast to be repaired. That something like this would be quite
12
cool
times
to attach.
that data means 12 times magnification apparently. So 21 millimeters times 12 gets you 210. It doesn't get you terribly far away, does it? Like 250 mil through a camera, I suppose. But yeah, nice.
Yeah, I was having a play with the Pixel Pro's zoom as well, which is which is really quite good,
Yeah.
and especially with night vision too. It's very good, or the low level light pictures that it could take, and this could work quite well for general photography and astrophotography as well, because it even has a function for that too.
It does indeed, yeah.
Interesting. I'll keep that in my basket just in case I suddenly get drunk and decide I'm going to buy something silly. Right, next up is, again, something slightly different. This is the Manfrotto Compact Advanced Aluminium Tripod with a 3-way head. It is reduced in price from £105 down to £45, which is a particularly big gouge there of the price. It has been around this price before, back earlier in the year, around about March, but it's Manfrotto, so that's a good quality name when it comes to photography gear, and it's compact and light and fits in your bag if you need to take it with you. It's a pretty good deal, I think, that if you need a new tripod, and it's black too.
Very nice indeed. That was when I was into photography. That was always the name of the stuff you couldn't afford. I couldn't afford, so I ended up buying Jessup's own.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
making do. But yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Right, what's next? Lamy Call adjustable phone stand. The reason I've put this in is that it's the first time I've seen a little phone stand for charging, say, at night, with a slidey up and down thingy to put your phone on. And the implication of this is that, and that I quite often come unstuck with this, is that if you've got to cable your phone up to charge it, very often when you put it on a stand like this, you can't get the bloomin' cable in because it's too near the table. So you try and jam it in, then you sit it on the edge of a table or the edge of a bedside table or on the edge of a book or something in order to get the bloomin' thing to work. This, fiendishly, has got a slide-up thingy so you can plug it in to the correct height that you want to for it to sit there, to allow for the charger to be in the bottom of it, which is, as we know, where most of these do come now. I think that it's available for any phone size. I think it's fairly universal, although if you've got a whacking great big phone, it might overweight it. And also it folds up for travel purposes as well. Really nice, and it's reduced to virtually half price. It's £7. And yeah, nice little phone stand.
That is, absolutely. That's a really nice design too. Look quite swish beside your bed.
Indeed.
And they do another one as well, which is actually kind of cool as well. It looks like a more sort of aluminium build too.
Yeah.
But it's a more traditional kind of foldy, roundy thing that allows you to plug in that way too. And it's £13, but not as cheap as the one you have there. Good call. All right, and over on Amazon we have the WD Black. This is a 1 terabyte M.2 NVMe SSD, the likes of which I ramble on about quite frequently. This is down to £100, £99.98p, from £177.99p, which is a significant decrease in price. And I think this is the cheapest it's been at. It's been at this price once before in April of this year for a couple of days. So, the price of SSDs is tumbling. It'll work very nicely in your computer if you happen to have one. It's got sequential read speeds of around about 5,150 megabytes per second and up to 4,900 megabytes per second. And would be really nice for anyone who is a gamer and needs to have quick access to their game file running type things.
Very good.
Ted?
Nice. And lastly, I've got the Sony Xperia 10 Mark IV bundle on Amazon, which we thought was going to retail at $499, but it's come in on Amazon on pre-order for $429. And I think I might have mentioned this before, actually. You get a pair of free buds with it, which are worth 60. Well, they reckon that they're worth 90 quid, but actually the usual price is 60 quid. You can pre-order that from Amazon and Sony, I think, for delivery on the 30th of June. But the interesting thing was that apart from the earbuds, we thought it was going to be 500 quid, but it's not. It's 429, and that's a really, really nice little phone. I think for 429, I think that's a good contender in that price range, particularly if you can flog the headphones as well.
Yeah, and they're darn good headphones if you happen to be in the market for them too.
Indeed, yeah. So watch out for that. Oh, there's also £300 off on the Sony Xperia 1 Mark III and the 5.2 and the Pro I on Amazon at the moment as well. So watch out for those £300 reductions if you want a device that is a third generation and not be waiting for the fourth.
Good stuff indeed. All right, that's 2 hours. Wow, all the money. Okay, so if you want to get in touch with us, you can by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk. You can also find the Tech Addicts UK Twitter handle as well for all the, show postings. You can find me on Twitter at Gareth Miles, GarethMyles, and I also have my GarethMiles.com that I'm updating frequently. Quite a lot, actually. Ted, where can they find you?
TedSalmon.com. That's where you'll find me. Links out from there to everything I do, audio podcasts, and all the MeWe groups as well. Links in there, so do that. If you want to buy me a coffee, you can do that. It's paypal.me/Ted Salmon. Thank you very much. And how's your Ko-fi thing going? Coffee?
No one's ever bought me
No.
one. So.
That's terrible, isn't it?
I didn't expect it. People like you hate me. That's the way it works.
I'll buy you a coffee.
No, you're all right, thanks. All right, listen, take care, and we'll speak to you all next week with another roundup of all the exciting technological news type things that you would expect to hear here, unresearched and unrefined. Take care.
Bye.